Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Life Served Neat. I am Howie Barber, joined by my beautiful co host of 3 decades plus, Elizabeth Barber. We have been through a lot as a married couple. Not that we're the gold standard, but we have the experience behind us, we have the track record. So today we're going to share some tips and tricks of what got us through.
People always say that marriage is work, which is absolutely true. And after 32 plus years, we know the work is not what people think it is. Probably anybody that's been married for this long knows that the work is not what people think it is. It's never the big dramatic things, it's always the smallest of things that people either build upon or the smallest of things that they ignore.
You have to be committed to one another, and not just one another. You have to be committed to the success of the partnership. You're not always going to be winning at the same time. You're not always going to be hitting on all cylinders. You need to prop each other up and get through the hard times, especially in the throwaway culture of today. You think happiness is just one swipe away. I don't know whether it's a swipe right or swipe left. I've never done it, but in a throwaway culture, you have to be committed to one another. You have to be committed to the winning of the relationship, the survival. Beth and I both came from broken homes. And when we started early, we made the commitment that our children would not be from broken homes.
Well, you told me all those years ago that neither one of us came from a fairy tale. So if we wanted the fairy tale, we were going to have to build it. And I don't think either one of us really knew what that meant, but you were right. That was true. And it was just hard at times. At other times, not hard, but at times hard. And it's just year after year, sometimes just week after week, and sometimes hour by hour. That's how you do it.
I think with the newness of any relationship, you're in love, you're infatuated, everything is perfect, everything is wonderful. And then the long haul comes in, then it's the grind, then real life shows up, the kids, the bills, the stress, the exhaustion of a job while cleaning a house, while doing laundry, while raising kids, while the dogs ran away, the dog's hit by a car, the kids are throwing up. All of this nonsense, you have to be able to extend each other grace in their weaker times.
And that is something that goes back and forth all the time.
We have talked about this episode quite a bit. We have show notes that we've written down because we want to make sure we check all the boxes, that everything that we've agreed on is near and dear and something that needs to be covered.
So let's go back to the beginning, how we met. We were both in the Navy. We were both stationed together and going to the gym at 5:30 in the morning. That was where we met in January of 1993.
That's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it is insane. What's more insane is that we were doing step aerobics at 5:30 in the morning. That was insane.
I tell people when I was younger, I had the body of a Greek god. Now I have the body of a Greek restaurant owner.
We met in January of 1993 and we got married New Year's Eve of that same year. 11 months later, we got married. And then 10 days after that, I left on deployment for 6 months.
We didn't have an argument the first 6 months of our marriage. I don't know if anybody else can make that claim.
That is true. So, back in those early days, what did you expect it would look like?
I don't think we planned to be apart for 6 months. That just kind of was thrust upon us. I did expect a little more of a partnership, that you did not hold up your end. I had to keep the house together. I was going to work every day. I was cooking. I was cleaning. I was doing laundry. I was doing it all, and you were nowhere to be found.
No, I was on vacation in the Mediterranean for 6 months
Skiing in the Italian Alps.
for one day. That was pretty cool, though, I have to say.
When you came home, what was different than you expected with married life?
I didn't really know what to expect, and at the time, we were going through so much transition. You had gotten out of the service, moved to North Carolina. I was still in the service. I had a deployment coming up. We got married. I left. I came back. I got out of the service and moved to North Carolina. And immediately after that, we were expecting our first child. That was a lot in a very short period of time. And I don't think that I had any expectation around any of that. It was just a whirlwind.
That's when you doggy paddle as fast as you can to keep your head above water. I remember a lot of late nights you were working second shift at a shoe store, a regular Al Bundy story. Your hormones were raging. You were going through all kinds of crazy thoughts, and this is true, cravings. I remember one night you came home hysterical crying because there was a little puppy, not a real puppy, a drawing of a puppy on a billboard running away. It was a spay and neuter ad.
It was. Oh gosh, and that just tore me up unbelievably. Well, I had intense craving for sunflower seeds, and those shells were everywhere. You had about enough of that at one point.
You came in hysterically crying, and I had to calm you down for 5 minutes to figure out what the problem was. And then when you told me it was about a silly billboard, I actually lost my temper. I don't know if you remember this, and I had to go outside and calm down.
I don't remember you losing your temper.
Yes.
I
It's
don't.
because I was outside walking around in the cold.
I was 22 when we got married in 1993.
And you were pregnant at 23.
Yep, had Brett. I was 23 when I had Brett. All through my 20s was that. And I never really had an idea of what it should look like. And so I was willing to take everything as it came.
I will tell you that, and I've said this about a lot of things, about fatherhood, I've said this about marriage, that I didn't know what a good one looked like. I only knew what bad ones looked like. So I didn't really have a pattern to follow. I just knew what didn't work. And I was committed to make this work with you and I. I remember in the beginning, I always felt like I needed to do more because I felt like you were doing too much for me. When people say it's a 50-50, I don't believe it. It's more like 100-100. You have to give 100%
100%.
for it to
Mhm.
be successful.
And then as you get further on into your life and things are happening, sometimes it's 90-10. You're carrying the weight for the unit while something else is going on. And that is something that ebbs and flows and goes back and forth throughout the years. And you have to know that that's going to happen. Nobody ever tells you that that's what's going to happen, but that is what happens in real life.
But by that point, you have to have built up a deposit or a surplus
Mhm.
of grace, of good deeds to replenish what you're not giving. You've already built up the bank account of goodwill so that when you come up short, the body of work is considered and not the last 6 weeks.
Yeah. As part of our notes that we have here, we kind of broke this down into 5 pillars, and the first one that comes up is respect never goes out of style.
I will tell you that a marriage, any relationship, can survive without love. It cannot, no relationship can survive without respect. Think about it. Friendships end when you lose respect. You leave that job when you no longer respect your boss or the guy you work with or work for. Respect makes the world go round.
For me, kind of an outflow of respect that I feel is important is courtesy to each other. Please, thank you. I appreciate you. Those kind of courtesies to me are part of respect and they go a long way. We've all, I think, probably heard or overheard people talking to each other, and it's so thinly veiled contempt that it's surprising that people would talk to each other like that in front of you.
We've seen relationships like that where I'm stunned at the, this isn't in private, this is in front of other people, the disrespect shown.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in the civility and courtesy, even in private moments, even in the moments in the early morning, like, "Good morning, would you like a cup of coffee?" If I'm gonna go make myself a cup of coffee, I can certainly make you a cup of coffee. Would you like one?
Yes,
And
please.
and the appreciation of that. Yeah.
Marriages don't collapse. Most marriages don't collapse in a single huge moment. The buildup of disrespect and the erosion that causes the collapse of the foundation.
The last straw, whatever it is the last straw, is usually not the biggest straw.
Another thing we wrote down is you have to grow together.
People do change, we were in our 20s when we got married, we're much different people in our 50s now than we were then, and you have to give each other space to change and evolve and grow, and it's gonna happen in ways that you cannot see coming because life comes at you, and things come into your world and your orbit that affect you that you can't anticipate and plan for.
My favorite Muhammad Ali quote is, "A man who sees the world the same at 50 that he did at 20 has wasted 30 years of his life." This is very appropriate. As you're growing, as you're evolving as a person, you have to expect your spouse to evolve and grow as a person. And you have to support that person and cheer their wins.
We've always been good cheerleaders of each other and support each other's goals or achievements or taking advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. And I think that's one of the places where we have done a very good job.
I remember the first time you leapfrogged me in salary, and I went to my grandfather, who was always my sounding board in life. And I said to the old man, I said, "Hey, Cap, she's making more money than me." Kind of, I wasn't happy about it. I was happy for you, but I wasn't happy about it not being the sole or the primary breadwinner. And he said, in words of wisdom, "God damn it. What do you give a shit how much she makes as long as the money comes home to the house?"
That's pretty good. I can hear it.
So at that moment, I swallowed my pride. I almost felt embarrassed that I was telling him this because he was old school.
Well, because he was born in 1913, and that was not a common philosophy for people born from that era.
So of course he hit me with the old horse shit, and I never thought of it again. Now when you make more money than me, I high five you and say, "Good job. Where can I take you to dinner? What do you want to buy with your raise?"
And we have leapfrogged each other time over time over time as the 30 years have gone on, and it's been nice to be able to celebrate each one of those as they have happened.
Because it's not a competition, it's a partnership.
Right, right, and we have grown and prospered as a unit from that, and we've given each other the space to be able to put in the work to take advantage of the opportunities that came our way to be able to do that, and that was an important part of it for each of us.
And I appreciate you supporting that failed restaurant that we were in. Uh, wow, that was a tumultuous 18 months.
Right, but think about everything that we learned from that. You could not have gone and paid for an MBA anywhere and learned as much as you did and I did through that experience for what we paid for it.
I think tuition would have been as much as we paid for it.
It would have been, but it wouldn't have been as realistic or practical as what we got out of it, which, interestingly enough, did open many doors to things that are still in our life today that we never would have had the opportunity to do if it had not been for that. So, really, you have to look at that as a win overall, as an experience, regardless of the financial aspect of it.
There's friendships and opportunities today that are in place because of what
Yeah.
did and didn't happen at that restaurant.
Mhm. Yes, but never again, never a restaurant again.
We'll see. Number 3 on the list is fighting, conflicts, arguments. Learning to respect limits, and you don't have to set ground rules, but you better have some sort of internal compass that tells you what is over the line.
Mm. This is somewhere I think we've come toward the middle on. So you're from Long Island, New York, and everything that goes along with that, including an ability to be very sharp-tongued. I come from a very quiet farming community in rural Iowa where we did not have conflict, and I did not have any conflict resolution skills. So we were very much on opposite ends of the spectrum, and we had to come towards each other and meet in the middle, which was not a short process.
I would like to put a flag in the ground and say that I come from respectful, debate driven. We don't like to raise our voice. We don't use foul language. We are very calm when negotiating our side of things. I would like to put that flag in the ground. However, I'm not sure I can.
Be calling some of your cousins and inviting them to come on and weigh in on the topic.
Oh, those were the days.
Very different cultures that we came from, which meant we came with very different styles of disagreement, and it took us a long time to figure out how to negotiate things with each other in a way that stayed respectful.
I will say one of the things that we agreed on early was how to discipline the children. If I did it a certain way, I didn't want you to change it in front of them. Just like if you put down a rule and I thought it was wrong, I would pull you aside and say, "Hey, babe, I think you should think about this because of XYZ." And then you, if you agreed, could go and change your decision. But I would never change any ruling that you made, and you never changed any ruling that I made.
Mhm. And that was beneficial because they could not play us against each other
And
with
they're
that.
crafty. My God, were they crafty.
And then when they worked together, they were extra crafty. But that was a good philosophy to have, sometimes challenging to put into practice. But sometimes I think I was harder on them with certain things than you were, actually.
There were certain times that you drew the line in the sand, and I was like, wow, okay, we're going there. I have your back. Let's see how this works out. So, what I would say to summarize this section of conflict and disagreements is winning an argument and losing the marriage is a very bad trade.
Mhm. And sometimes it comes down to, would you rather be right or rather be happy? One of the things that I've always said from way back in the beginning that I think is important is that we have to be pulling the oars in the same direction. Retirement is something that comes up a lot. People have different visions for what their retirement should be. Oh, I want to go and retire in the Caribbean, and oh, I want a cabin in the mountains. Those are very, very different things. I think we have always been good at having a shared vision, horizon, and pulling the oars in that direction and being able to adapt to whatever's coming along our path, and I think that's been successful. It's kind of like a shared purpose, and we've had a really good time getting on board each other's bandwagons for various things. We've gone through different seasons of our life. We went through the classic car season because you're a car guy, and so we've had different classic cars and enjoyed that. We go through the music. We both enjoy live music together, so that's a season that we can kind of enjoy together, going to see concerts. We don't always love the same kind of music, but you'll go to concerts that I want to go to. I'll go to concerts that you want to go to and genuinely enjoy it. Even if I really don't care about going to see Kiss, I will go with you because you enjoy them.
But our first weekend that we dated, the first weekend we dated, we saw
Joan Jett,
Well, I remember Joan Jett. I was trying to think of the other. I almost said Neil Sedaka.
Neil
Neil
Diamond.
Diamond.
Neil Diamond. Come on now.
Well, I knew 2 songs. So
I
what
love Neil.
We went to Neil Diamond and we sat in the nosebleeds, and then we went to the boathouse in Norfolk. I don't even know if it's still there. Went to the boathouse with Joan Jett, and we were at the stage.
Yeah, much better seats for Joan Jett, where she was flinging her sweat on us from her hair as she was playing her guitar. It was very fun. I do love Joan Jett. That was a great show.
But we've come together and we've had the same approach for raising kids and building career. Pay attention to who cheers when you win,
Yeah.
making our own family traditions, having crazy ideas like restaurants and nail salons and podcasts.
We've never been afraid to learn something new together. And we've never been afraid to try something that other people want. Remember when we painted the inside of our house bright yellow? And someone came in and said, "Oh, I can see why you're painting over the yellow." No, we're actually painting it yellow. But
Oh,
we
I
were never,
like it.
it was not a typical color for the inside of a house because it was pretty bright.
It was sunshine yellow, and we had glass doors that where the sun shined in all day long. It was a very bright area, and you wanted a bright living room. So that's what we did.
It was happy. It was a happy color. But we've never been afraid to try different things and learn them together, even having no idea what we were doing. I have to say, though, that I admire you very much for that because when we do home projects, I'm your glorified assistant. You are the one that knows how to do stuff, and I just run the shop vac, go to Lowe's and get things, clean up, be the errand girl. But you're never afraid to do something like we have a dead space and we want to put a coat closet in. So I'm going to watch a video on YouTube and take a saw and hack through our wall. It worked out great, but you didn't know what you were doing with that. And you learned it, you tried it, you did it, trial and error. I supported you. And we just have a repeated history of doing things like that over 3 decades.
Well, what didn't see that?
It was.
So it was a low risk. Worst comes to worst, sheetrock back up, and that coat closet led to the liquor closet down here in dead space behind the shower.
And now we've got the dead space under the stairs that's next on your list.
That'll be some laundry storage.
Yeah, I like it. The point of this whole thing being is not home renovations. It's not being afraid to learn new things together.
Pulling oars in the same direction,
Yeah,
right?
that's it for me. The oars in the same direction. All right.
Humor.
Well, we have that in spades. So I
You
always
are a
say,
funny devil.
oh, yeah, it's me. I'm the one. I've always said that you missed your calling in stand-up comedy. I would love to get you on stage somewhere for a 10-minute set.
Well, thank you. I think stage, I'd have to have a couple drinks in me to hit the stage.
Have you seen our liquor cabinet?
That's
We
true.
can do that.
I was going to say karaoke is where I draw the line, but we do backyard karaoke.
Mhm. Yeah. Coming from New York, and a lot of great comedians come from the same general area that you come from, and you guys came up in some hard times, and that always lends to people developing a very sharp sense of humor, which you have. You can take the most ordinary of situations, the smallest of things, and find a way to make them funny. And I've been laughing for 30 years. Even when I'm mad at you, you try to make me laugh, so I stop being mad at you.
I think it's a survival skill when you come from the Northeast. Produce a lot of funny people. The weather's terrible. The, there's no AC in the summer. It's cold as hell in the winter. Snow, ice, high taxes, high everything. So I think funny people come out of harsh conditions, and it's almost a survival skill.
I would agree with that, but it does make it fun to be around you. Never a boring moment, that's for sure. And I think humor leads to inside jokes, inside stories,
Who will prove that?
who'll prove that? Makes me laugh every time. And I did hear a comedian say one time on a bit, probably TikTok or Instagram, where he said, "What keeps marriages together is not liking the same things, it's actually hating the same things." And I'm like, there's actually a good bit of truth to that.
I will tell you, as we drive down the street and somebody pulls out in front of us, like you go, look at this asshole. I've never been prouder, never been prouder than that moment.
I'm just channeling you. Which is what our oldest son says when he's a police officer. Remember when he first started and he came back and was talking to you, he said, "Really, Dad, all I do is just channel you all day. I'm gonna ask you a question, and I already know the answer."
While we want to stay positive and talk about all the things that made this relationship successful for 3 decades, I think we have to at least acknowledge the challenges that modern day relationships face. The challenges are in a disposable culture. You have disposable cars, disposable diapers, disposable phones, all the different apps. Everything is instantaneous happiness. And if it doesn't make you happy, swipe, swipe, move on, cancel this, change that. You even have streaming services these days, not like the old days where you're stuck with cable until death.
Well, I think everybody has always had a little bit of that keeping up with the Joneses. It's just so much easier today with social media because you're comparing your everyday to everybody else's perfectly curated highlight reel. And comparison truly is the thief of joy. Very few people are getting on to Instagram and showing their laundry room with 3 loads of laundry and a sink overflowing with dishes and an unfinished school project that's due at 8 a.m. and you have to go to Walmart and try to find a sheet of cardboard or construction paper
At 10 o'clock at night.
at 10 o'clock at night. Nobody's really posting about that. They're posting their vacation to the Bahamas and Johnny hit a walk-off home run and all of those things. And
Don't
it can,
forget how much I love you.
yeah.
Don't forget you're my everything.
And you really do understand sometimes when you see those posts what the reality is behind it. And it just seems a little disingenuous. So all of that can kind of come together and make you look at your own situation and feel a little dissatisfied. But I always tell myself, it sticks with you when they say if you could see someone else's problems, you'd gladly pick up your own again. I always try to remind myself of that, but it's easy to lose sight of that. So
And
compare.
let me say one thing here. Let me look in the camera. If you think any of that we were just talking about you, shame on you. Do better.
But there's a lot of things out there that can come in and erode a relationship, and not just a marriage relationship, any relationship. And that's where you have to stop comparing and don't assume malice. That's the other thing people do a lot is they assume that everything that somebody else is doing is deliberately, intentionally malicious to them, when in reality, it's just everybody trying to do the best they can to get through life. That's it.
In the old days, there was a lot of pressure from the community and from families to stay together. I think nowadays the only encouragement to stay together is from inside the marriage or inside the relationship. Everything outside shows you how much better it is, how the grass is greener, how much simpler it is to go and, do whatever you want that makes you happy.
This is where they say that you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. I think that's kind of true for relationships too, the other relationships that you surround yourself with. You don't always get to choose all of those, but the ones that you can choose, think carefully about what you have in your orbit.
We have always been fortunate to have 2 or 3 or 4 elder couples, not that they're elderly, but they're 10, 20 years in front of us as good examples of how to accept the crazy girlfriend your son brings home, how to simply love your children, even if they're different than what you expected from them, or just accepting the person as they are. and loving each other unconditionally. I think we've always been blessed to have those role models in our life.
Mhm.
Um, Not necessarily surrounding us with it, but they are the example that we aim to follow.
They were always a light on the path just a little bit further ahead of us. And it wasn't that their lives were always easy either. I think, when my aunt and uncle celebrated their 60th anniversary, they sat there and said, "We've been married for 60 years and 55 of them have been good." Something to that effect. But it just goes to show that every marriage is not every year great.
Mhm.
And that's life. It's life. Times can get hard, and we're all growing and evolving and changing, and that's not necessarily an easy process. It can be messy and people are complicated.
I think it's fair to say we've been happily married 25 years.
Out of 32.
Looking back, Beth, looking at young Elizabeth Kleeman on her wedding night, what advice would you give that young lady?
I would give the advice not to be afraid of change, that no matter what situation that you're in, it will be temporary and nothing is forever, and not to be afraid of change, to embrace it and give you both plenty of space to grow and evolve without any preconceived notions of what that should be. What about you? What advice would you give young Howie Barber?
I think I would advise that young man to be patient and then be more patient, to accept the differences and embrace the differences between the two of us. It was not always easy in the early days,
Right,
but we were always committed in the early days.
right. There was a lot of cultural difference between my background and your background, and I did not realize what that would look like in practice, but I learned an incredible amount from it.
30 years later, I would say we talk about articles and we talk about podcasts and we talk about marketing. It's more important to get it out there than to be perfect. It's more important to be committed and supportive than it is to be perfect. Are you crying?
Far from perfect, but always trying. Sorry.
I love you, girl.
I love you.
All right, gang. I think this is going to wrap it up for us.
Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you for joining us. I hope you understand where we come from, our commitment to one another, what got us through 30 years of ups and downs. We're still together. You're still each other's biggest fan. I want everyone listening to take something away from this, and I hope it betters your marriage, your relationship, your job, your kids. Thank you for watching.